Hello and welcome to another Botania tutorial. Today we are going to be having a look at the mana battery, and not just the mana battery, but we're also going to be having a look at a few different things you can do with sparks and how sparks work, so let's get to it. First, let's get started with the baby steps. A mana battery is pretty much just like a normal battery. Mana comes in from one side and leaves on the other side. The next thing you need to know is that it gets stored within the pools between those two pools that I've just pointed out there. Now you can make that a lot bigger as you just saw, but we'll start with these baby steps just so you can get the hang of it. The next thing you need to know is that each of these mana pools has a spark on it, and sparks will connect to any other mana pools with sparks on them within 12 blocks. So when we right click with the Wand of the Forest, you'll see that those three are all connected right there. Now what we've done with these sparks to make sure that we have the mana going in one side and out the other is we've used a spark augment. So this spark over here has got a recessive augment, and what that does is it looks for any other pools to put its mana into. So if this gets mana, it'll look for another pool to put it into, provided that pool has a spark on it. On this side over here, we've got a dominant spark, and what that does is it takes any mana from any nearby pools with sparks on it into its own. Now, if you have a look, when we put an everlasting guilty pool on this mana spreader here, you'll see that that pool over there gets filled, but that one over there is grabbing all the mana. And that's exactly what's happening, what we've just explained there, that the recessive spark interacts with the dominant spark and sends all the mana down that way. Now what you can do is you can use a mana spreader on this side over here, and if you have a look, that's full of mana, so you can just send it off in that direction wherever you would like. The next thing you can do with this is using a spark tinkerer. You can take the opposite augment, so this one over here has got a recessive, and this one here's got a dominant, and the opposite on this side. And by applying a redstone pulse, you can see that these ones will flip. So when I push this button, that one over there now has flipped over to a dominant spark on this side and a recessive spark on this side. So that means you can flip the ends of which side you want the mana to come into. So that pool over there is getting filled. Now what we'll do is we'll come around this side and I'll show you just how it's done. So I've basically just left this area over here. Those are just simple mana pools. That's a mana spreader. And we've just got 2 blocks there so we can place these down. We actually don't need those blocks because these can actually get placed just like that, but we've got the blocks there anyway. So the first thing you want to do is take your input over there and put a recessive spark there. So a spark with a recessive augment on that. Then you can put another one over here. So any of these sparks without any augments will be the ones that they store the mana in. Mana will first get stored in this one here with the dominant spark. Once that one's full, the recessive spark will just send whatever mana it's got to these normal sparks here. Now, what we do now is we will place a tinkerer on each of those, and we'll grab our living rock brick. You can use whatever you'd like, I'm just using that, so we can place the button on it. Now, because we've put the recessive spark in there, we want the dominant spark in there, and the recessive spark in there. So as we do that, you'll see they flip and flip. Now, if you wanted to use more than one spark for whatever reason, you'll have to think a little bit more about it, because this will take any random spark in any direction. So the reason we've only got it facing against one mana pool is just for that. So one mana pool to one spark, then we've always got them flipping around without any chance. And now we come back to this. It's basically just for demonstration purposes. I really could not see any means of getting this much mana in survival, or at least having to store this much mana in survival. But this is here to demonstrate that mana can travel 12 blocks away from the spark. So this spark over here is what's sending mana from this everlasting guilty pool, and this over here should be the 12th block. Now if we go 1 block further and we place a spark on that, you'll see nothing will come through there. But if we went to this block again and we place a spark on it, you'll see it'll start getting filled up. Now it works the same way on this side here, whereas we got the dominant spark on that one just to make sure all the mana first goes to that pool over there. When we go 1 block out, no mana comes in there. Now this also works going upwards, but that only works for 11 blocks up. So when we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, that mana pool should still get mana in it. But when we go to the 12th, you'll see that no mana comes into this mana pool around here. Now this should also work going downwards, so you can play around. It doesn't have to be symmetrical, so you can do all kinds of cool shapes. If you really wanted to make a mana battery, get creative with it. But that's pretty much the main part of how a mana battery works. Now we'll come back to these just for a short time and explain if you did want this to work, you would have to wire in redstone from one direction to the other. I would recommend probably using a mana detector and trying to do it the Botania way, Have a look at some of my other videos, you'll see how those work. But I think that's the mana battery explained as best I can do it. So share the video if you want, like it if you liked it, and be sure to comment if you've got any questions. Thank you very much.